Behind these walls, the rules of society don't exist. Only survival does. The gate that swallows men. Behind these walls, the rules of society don't exist. Only survival does. Once you step through the gates of Redridge State Penitentiary, you leave the world you knew behind. Every law, every principle, every moral compass that once guided your life becomes useless. Here, inside this fortress of concrete and steel, there's only one law: the strong eat the weak. The first thing you notice isn't the smell, though it's there, thick and heavy with sweat, bleach, and fear. It's the sound. Doors clanging shut in sequence like a mechanical heartbeat. The echo travels down the halls like thunder rolling through metal canyons. And then, silence. The kind of silence that makes your bones hum. They say Redridge was built for the worst of the worst. Murderers, lifers, men who stopped believing in redemption long ago. But that's not the truth. Redridge isn't a place for the worst. It's a place that creates them, the arrival. It's Marcus Holloway's first day inside, 26 years old, convicted of second-degree murder after a bar fight spiraled into chaos. He wasn't a gangster, wasn't a career criminal, just a man who lost control one night and ended a life. The bus ride up the mountain took 3 hours. By the time the gate swallowed him, the sun had already vanished behind the ridges. Floodlights lit the yard in a sterile white glow. Men in jumpsuits moved like shadows behind fences topped with razor wire that glittered under the lights like spider webs. The air was cold, sharp, and smelled of iron. Guards stood motionless with rifles slung over their shoulders, faces hidden behind black visors. No words were spoken, just the shuffle of chains, the hiss of radios, and the low hum of the yard's generators. Marcus tried to keep his head high, but his heart was pounding. Every sound, every pair of eyes watching from the windows above, felt like a threat. Inside, the intake officer's voice barked orders like a drill sergeant. Strip, shower, uniform, number 41627. That's you now. The metal cuffs cut into Marcus's wrists as he lifted his arms. The smell of disinfectant burned his nose. He caught a glimpse of himself in a cracked mirror, naked, bruised, hollow-eyed. Whatever version of himself existed before today had already died on that bus. When the steel door closed behind him, it didn't just lock him in, it locked out the world. The orientation of fear. Every man in Redridge learns one truth before his first weekends. This place doesn't punish you, it rewires you. Inmate Hall B was a labyrinth of concrete tiers and rusted bars. The walls were stained yellow from decades of sweat and smoke. From the upper levels, prisoners stared down like vultures eyeing fresh meat. Marcus followed the guard through the tier, clutching a thin mattress and a mesh bag with his belongings. 2 jumpsuits, soap, a toothbrush, and a spoon. The other inmates whispered as he passed. Names were never used, only nicknames: Ghost, Mad Dog, Spider, Preach. At the far end, cell 217 waited. Inside sat a man built like a boulder with tattoos crawling up his neck. He looked up, smirked, and said, "You're my new cellie, huh?" Marcus nodded silently. The man laughed, a dry, rasping sound. "Name's Rico. Don't snore, don't touch my shelf. And if you see me stand up fast, you better stand up too." Marcus dropped his bag and sat on the lower bunk. He stared at the cracks in the wall, each one carved by someone who'd once dreamed of escape. He didn't know it yet, but those cracks were more than decoration. They were reminders. Redridge had a way of keeping men inside long after their sentences ended. The rules you don't see. There are the official prison rules. No fights, no contraband, no disobedience. Then there are the real ones. The rules the guards don't write down. The rules that decide whether you live or die. Rule number 1, never eat alone. In Redridge, a man who eats by himself is a man without allies. And a man without allies is a dead man. Rule number 2, don't look too long at anyone. A stare can be seen as a challenge, or worse, disrespect. Rule number 3, if something happens, you didn't see it. No matter how loud the screams, no matter how much blood hits the floor, first, blood. It happened 3 days after Marcus arrived. The yard was full, men lifting weights, running laps, shouting through the chain-link fences. The air buzzed with tension. Marcus was sitting on the bleachers when 2 inmates started arguing near the pull-up bars. Words turned into shoves, shoves into blades. The shank flashed in the sunlight, and within seconds, one man was bleeding out in the dirt. The sirens wailed. Guards poured into the yard, rifles drawn. Everyone hit the ground. Marcus froze, heart hammering, eyes locked on the dying man's face. He'd seen death before, but this was different. This was survival. Rico grabbed his collar, forced him flat. "Keep your face down," he hissed. "You didn't see a thing." Later that night, the lights went out early. Rumors spread through whispers. It wasn't random. The man who died was part of the El Camino Brotherhood, one of the oldest gangs in Redridge. His killer? A Lobo from the rival block. There would be payback. There was always payback. A deal with the devil. Rico leaned on his bunk, rolling a cigarette from scrap paper. "You from the outside still think this place got rules," he said. "But Redridge ain't about rules. It's about business. You either part of somebody's economy, or you are the econo. Mime?" He wasn't lying. Everything inside had a price. A pack of noodles, $2. A lighter, $5. A favor, depends who you're asking. Rico was part of a crew called the Sons of Iron. They ran the kitchen detail and half the contraband trade. They could get anything, cigarettes, phones, even pills, for the right price. He told Marcus something that would stay with him forever. You don't survive here by fighting. You survive by understanding the math. Every punch costs something. Every word earns something. Learn when to spend and when to save. Marcus didn't fully understand then, but he would. The cost of silence. 2 weeks later, a guard was found unconscious in the laundry room, his keys gone. The entire block went on lockdown. Doors slammed, lights flickered red, dogs barked in the hallways. Marcus sat on his bunk, heart racing. Rico didn't say a word, just stared at the floor, jaw tight. "Was it you?" Marcus whispered. Rico didn't answer. The search lasted 2 days. When the lockdown ended, everyone knew something had shifted. The guards were angrier, the inmates were bolder, and somewhere in the chaos, the missing keys resurfaced. In a drain behind cell block Deneau, no one ever confessed. But Marcus noticed something strange that night. Rico's hands were bleeding, his knuckles raw. He'd crossed a line, and in Redridge, crossing lines meant one of two things: power or death. The politics of survival. In the free world, politics are fought in debates and offices. Inside Redridge, politics are fought with fists, cigarettes, and fear. Marcus learned fast, not because he wanted to, but because the place demanded it. You either learned how to navigate the invisible lines drawn between gangs, guards, and ghosts, or you became another name whispered in the chow line: the New World Order. 3 weeks into his sentence, Marcus stopped thinking of himself as inmate. He was now part of a system, a machine that ran on power, favors, and silence. The block had its own hierarchy. At the top were the shot callers, men who didn't have to lift a finger to control everything from cigarettes to bloodshed. Beneath them, the soldiers, who enforced rules, moved contraband, and handled business. And at the bottom, the fish, newcomers like Marcus, untested, unwanted, and unprotected. Every morning, the routine was the same. Wake to the clang of the metal door. Shower in freezing water. Eat gray oatmeal in the chow hall that smelled like bleach. Then, work detail, laundry, kitchen, or yard duty, each a battlefield in its own right. Marcus was assigned to the kitchen. That's where real deals happened. Men traded spices for cigarettes, gossip for loyalty, and sometimes, just sometimes, mercy for silence. The Kitchen Brotherhood. The kitchen was a separate world within Redridge. It had its own rhythm, its own secrets. The air was thick with grease and tension. Pots clanged, steam hissed, and behind it all, whispers traveled faster than sound. Rico had Marcus scrubbing trays near the back when a heavy-set man with gold teeth approached. His name was Taz, one of the enforcers for the Sons of Iron. "You the new fish Rico picked up?" he asked. Marcus nodded, keeping his eyes low. Taz grinned, revealing a chipped tooth. "Good. You keep quiet. Do what Hat Rico says. You might make it to next month." He tossed Marcus a pair of rubber gloves. "Start washing. And remember, ears open, mouth shut." That became Marcus's mantra. He learned that the kitchen was where power flowed, not through violence, but through control of food. If you could get someone an extra serving, a clean spoon, a packet of sugar, you earned leverage. And in Redridge, leverage was currency. The price of respect. One afternoon, a younger inmate named Jalen, barely 19 with a nervous twitch, tried cutting the food line. He was new, didn't know the unspoken hierarchy. A group from another crew cornered him. No words, just a flash of metal, the dull sound of a tray hitting the floor. Marcus froze. Rico didn't. He shoved Marcus aside and grabbed a ladle of boiling soup, hurling it into one of the attackers' faces. Screams filled the room. Chaos erupted. Guards rushed in, tasers buzzing, clubs swinging. Later that night, Rico sat in the cell, wiping his hands. "You think this is about food?" he said quietly. "This ain't about no soup, Holloway. This is about respect. Once they take that from you, you're already dead." Marcus nodded, but the image of Jalen bleeding on the floor stuck with him. That was when he understood. Violence here wasn't random. It was ritual, a form of communication, the price of survival. They say prison is a place where bad men go to pay for what they've done. But step behind these walls, and you realize it's not about punishment. It's about transformation. Every man who walks into Redridge State Penitentiary believes he knows who he is. A fighter, a father, a killer, a survivor. But these walls, they strip you down to something raw, something animal. The kind of thing that stops dreaming, stops hoping, and starts calculating every breath. What remains?